Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Spotlight on Middle Country. I'm Ryan Gessner from the Middle Country Library and the Middle Country Chamber of Commerce.
And I'm Alex Blend from the Miller Business Center at the Middle Country Public Library.
And we're here today with Gerard Donohue of JeJoJo Bagels. Welcome, Gerard.
Hey, hi guys, how you doing?
Good.
Great. Glad
Welcome.
you could make it today. So this series is just one where we try to each week highlight a different business or nonprofit in the Middle Country area to give them a spotlight on both their history in the community and how they've been faring during the pandemic. So Alex is going to kick it off with our first question.
All right. Yeah. So, Gerard, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background and your story?
Basically, obviously, I'm the owner of JeJoJo Bagels. We've been here for 23 some odd years at this point.
Wow. Congrats.
And prior to that, I had been in the food business. I had been working in appetizing for a couple gentlemen at an appetizing store. And prior to that, I was in fast food and restaurants and stuff. And during college, got involved in food and just kind of got the food bug. And it seemed like an easy thing to do that was easy to master. And being a self-teacher, and I like to absorb everything around me. I learned a lot, and I was like, well, I can tweak this, I can tweak that, I can make it a little better. So long story short, while I was working for the appetizing store, I had ambition of owning my own business. I had come from management when I was with fast food. I was the district supervisor and a training coordinator. So I had ambition of being my own boss. I didn't like the corporate thing when corporations came in and started taking things over. I was like, I don't like it. We just call them suits. So I said, let me see what I can find out there. And when I got involved with bagels, it seemed like a home run because it was early morning. And I had just started to have our family. And I was like, this is great. I can come and do this, and I'm not going to be out till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning anymore. I got done in the afternoon, be home for dinner, and, be around the kids. So family of 5, me, my wife, Lynn, who's been with me all these years, and 3 girls who are all graduates of the Middle Country School District. We live in the district. We live in the W section of Quorum. So we're locals, and I had the opportunity, somebody came to me, somebody who wanted a salesman, said, listen, there's a guy in Centereach that's got a little cafe place kind of thing. He's not doing so well. It's a bad shopping center. And he said, the guy's getting up there, he's getting sick. He says, you may need somebody to come in and take a look at it. And I went in, and long story short, I was like, this is great. This is my neighborhood. This is where I want to be. So one thing led to another, and the start of JeJoJo Bagels. So the name comes from my 3 daughters, the first 2 initials of each of their names, which at the time they were 5, 3, and 1. I mean, wow. So and then they've been through the whole school thing, through the school years, and we're still here and still plugging along.
Absolutely. That's great. Great story. Great. Very, very interesting. Like you said, you're embedded in the community. This is where you come from, and what a good place that you were able to find the storefront right here.
Right. I mean, obviously over the years things have changed. The center has changed. Stores have come and go. That's but that's a part of doing business. That's a part of trying to surf the water. And then I know you'd asked me about catering and stuff like that and everything. That all came from being involved with businesses where catering was a good part of the income for the business. They did parties, they did things with the temples, they did things with the old folks' homes and stuff like that. And so it made common sense to do that. And having my kids in the school district and being involved with the school district as well, and sports, and having 3 girls, they didn't play a lot of sports. I mean, they played some, but not a lot of sports. But having a football team and basketball team and everything around all the time, there was always something going on. And I was like, hey, listen, you need this, you need that, you need this. And little by little, we got our feet in the door. And then people were like, listen, we're going to have breakfast for 20, 30, 40 people. Can you do something? And we came up with the idea of the giant bagel. And we said, what if we take the bagel out of the oven? I mean, they do Cold Heroes and right smack out of the oven and cut that thing open and throw the eggs and the stuff right on it. And it was a home run. And then people love it. And it started basically, I was feeding the teachers. They used to have what they call Feed Me Friday. And sending them to the schools for the teachers and for the football teams. We fed the football teams, and one thing led to another. And then it was something that, just exploded. And then people would say, listen, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And we never want to say no to anybody. So if somebody would come in and say, could you do this? Could you do that? We'd be like, why not? Let's give it a shot. Worst we do is we fail and we say, let's do something else. So it's just gone crazy since then. So
the giant bagel is like a iconic thing, I think, now in the middle country community. You see that giant bagel, you're like, oh, giant bacon, egg, and cheese bagel. JeJoJo's must have done this. JeJoJo's. So Gerard, thank you for giving us a little bit of the history of JeJoJo's. Now, how have you guys been faring recently with the pandemic? Have you had to change up your business model a little bit?
Yeah. Well, like everybody else, there's been a lot of bumps in the road and everything else. I mean, you've got a bunch of different. You've got the financial problems, the financial hardships. You've got the employee problems, and you've got the what we've come to see now is the supply problems starting to become a big issue. There's everything that would normally be available to you. I mean, there was a time like 3-4 weeks ago where there was no cream cheese to be found anywhere.
Wow.
Because I guess the farms had issues wherever they had them, and the cows, and then when they started dumping the milk with all those cows, well, the milk makes the cream cheese.
Mm-hmm.
So when they weren't producing enough milk, then they couldn't produce the cream cheese. And I guess all these factories throughout, and the production places throughout the Midwest, where they'd get the illnesses and they'd have to shut down, all their productions fell off. So, I mean, there was a ton of stuff. There's still probably a half dozen items from Boar's Head that they don't carry anymore. Some of the more expensive meats, pastrami's, things like that. There was a lot of ham issues. Again, I guess related to the cattle thing. I don't know. Sausage was a problem for a while. And on top of that, anything that is available and anything that you normally use to do anything, the prices have just skyrocketed because supply and demand.
Yeah.
And then you add on top of it that this had all just come into effect at the time when they were changing everything for small, food businesses in terms of the paper supplies and from styrofoam to paper. So all those things had just switched over. So the supply was already tight and the prices were already going crazy. So that's been an issue because now you're dealing with a much, much lower margin. It's costing a lot more, and you're trying not to really jack your prices too much because it's not the customer's fault. And Middle Country is a good community. They've been a good community to us. Well, we're in here with Walmart, and so the shopper at Walmart is usually a middle of the road shopper. So I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna charge them $10 for a bagel? They're not gonna. We're not out in East Hampton. You know what I mean? So anyhow, so that's been an issue. Your employees, in terms of who wants to work and who doesn't want to work, because when this first started, a lot of them were scared to death. They didn't know if they would get sick coming out and going to work. And then when you finally got people to come to work, you had to set some rules in place because you had to tell everybody, listen, you got to understand when you come in here, this is our family. This is not a large corporation where if half the people are out sick, we keep going. We're dealing with 6, 7, 8 people. 4 or 5 of you are here every day. If 3 of you are sick, who's doing what? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody had to understand the responsibility involved. Thank goodness our staff has been with us for many, many years. Where we pride ourselves in taking care of our people and making them part of our family. So therefore they responded to that. They knew, and it was important to them. right from the get-go, most of them came and said, what do we got to do to keep this place open? What do we got to do? Let's just do it. And then we were fortunate enough to combine ourselves with a lot of, we got involved with the hospitals. We got we've always donated to the food banks. We've always given away. We don't reuse any of our food products that we bake daily. So we had always, at the end of the day, stressed looking for people, local churches and stuff like that, to pick up that food to go to a food bank and stuff like that and everything else. We were fortunate enough to find that one of our early morning customers was actually a coordinator for Long Island Cares. And basically set up something where literally every single morning he's taking out whatever was left from the day before. We're even baking a little extra so they got what everybody needs it out there. You know what I'm saying? So that kept the production, everything going, and then we just had a reason now to keep everybody on. So I mean, other than the financial hit of having to pay everybody constantly and everything else, we were able to do that to keep everybody working, to give them something to do. And then, of course, the last part is just now, you're trying to survive all the rules and everything else. You're trying to, tell your customers you got to have a mask on, put up the plexiglass, move the tables. If I turn this around, you see half the chairs are stacked up instead of being spread out. The table, the little individual tables are gone. We just have the couple of booths because you have half of the seating. We had to acquire outside seating. The landlord was nice enough to let us put tables and chairs on the sidewalk. But we had to go out, something we did not have. So we had to go out and purchase tables, chairs, things like that. So there's been expense involved. It's been tough. And obviously your customer base is limited because you have the people who still aren't comfortable coming to a food place or to any in-store place if it's not 100% necessity. And you have the second part of that is that such a large portion of our business were working people. And those people haven't been going to work. So if they're not going to work, they don't stop for their morning coffee. They don't stop for their Buddy Bagel. And an even larger part of our business has been, or always was, the school district. The school district hasn't been there. Matter of fact, this whole thing started, ironically, for us, the day before St. Patrick's Day, which in essence, for some crazy reason, is one of the biggest days of the year for a bagel store with green bagels.
Green bagels, yeah.
Green bagels, gotta have it.
Right. Well, I won't tell you how much green. I won't tell you how much green dough I got stuck throwing in the garbage can on March 16th, because on March 16th they shut down the schools, so all that got closed off. So, and then obviously since then, no teachers, no students, no graduation parties. So. So it's been tough. It's been tough. But like I said, we're faring better than others. You can always do a little better, but I mean, I think we're experienced enough to be able to, as they say, do the tap dance. And as long as we come up with an agreement for things like the rent and stuff like that and everything else, because those numbers don't change, then we see ourselves hopefully making it through this as long as things don't get worse.
Right.
So.
Absolutely. No, I could definitely understand that. That was very interesting feedback. And with all the other breakfast options that are available to people each morning, what do you think makes people visit your store? Do you think it's the customer loyalty? Do you think it's the special service they get when they visit? The Long Island classic bacon, egg, and cheese that you can only get at bagel stores like yours? I mean, I'm sure, people wake up and they're like, I got to get a bacon, egg, and cheese. Or,
it's actually funny you say that, Alex, because I will tell you that there are numerous stories among of kids that have been coming here with their families since they were, 10, 11 years old, whatever the case is, that eventually went off to college.
Yeah.
And they would come home from college and they'd be here. They'd be like, listen, I've been waiting 3 months to come eat at a JeJoJo bacon, egg, and cheese.
Yeah.
I need it. I'm craving it and everything else. So, yeah, I think it's a combination of everything you said. First of all, like I said earlier, I've been blessed with staff that has been here for many, many years. I think the average of my girls are somewhere between 5-6 years of service with me. And some longer, some many, much longer. And the 4 or 5 girls that are always here every morning early, they have come to learn the customer, learn the name, so when you're walking into some place and it's the first person you're greeting for the day, it's like, hey, Joe, how you doing today? What's going on? Right? They appreciate that. They look forward to that.
That goes a long way. It really does.
And I have to say, I've been told by many, many people that my girls are the nicest around. We've stressed the importance of, it's hard to do the customer's always right thing, but that's kind of like what you got to do. So, even if the customer is not right, you have to make the customer happy.
Right.
So you still got to be a way to work it out. And that's what
balancing
to balance it out. So that part of the customer thing is important, and I think that's a big thing. People come here for my girls and for our help. Our loyalty is our customer base. Probably 75% of the people who come through this door are regulars.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so that says something. And then the last part, the classic bacon, egg, and cheese. It is a classic, and you combine that with the fact that we have our own bagel. We make our bagel here from scratch. It's my recipe. It's not somebody else's thing. And a lot of these places, bagels have basically become white bread with a circle and a hole in the middle. There's a lot of things not in there that need to be in there to be a good bagel. And people eat like what Ryan was saying earlier about the big party bagels, the big breakfast heroes, and even the cold heroes. We have a mantra with the big heroes. We tell people, you have a hero on JeJoJo bread or JeJoJo bagel, and you will never go back to the bread hero again. And people are like, oh, I can't believe how friggin' good that was.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. So now you're taking that and you're combining it with a hot bacon, egg, and cheese. We try to always have fresh bagels, so a nice, warm, soft bagel, and it's like, it just adds to the flavor. So it does have its own taste, its own thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of people crave it.
Yeah, it's that uniqueness, the uniqueness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
And I know I mean, Sal said, don't end the interview without, and I know we did mention it, Ryan mentioned it, and we've talked about it, but I think the whole staff here at the Middle Country Library, and I'm sure at chamber events and everybody else can say how much they love that giant bacon, egg, and cheese bagel.
I'm glad about that. And that's the idea, is when you do something for people, one of the things that we strive for with our catering is, like I said, we don't like to tell anybody no. The other part of that is that it's important to us that when you have an event of any size, whether it's 2 people for lunch or 10 people, or we've done events for over 1,000 people, that at the end of the day, that event was successful and the food was good. And that not just the quality of the food or the taste of the food, all that kind of stuff, but it's important to also talk to customers, find out how many people they're having, what their expectation is. Do you want to wind up with leftovers? Do you want to have just enough for everybody? Because you never want somebody standing around and something going, oh, but we're out of food. What do we do now? Nobody's eating that. It wasn't good, or and that's the point. So we strive to have the customer come back and say, thank you. Wow, that was great. It was a hit, and it was because of your food, because of your service, or because. So that all plays into it, right down to the one customer at the counter. The goal is, I always tell my help when somebody comes in here, assume three things. Assume A, they're late for work. And your job is to get them back out the door as fast as they can. Assume that they just had a argument with their significant other and they're not in a great mood. And your job is to now put a smile on their face. And the last part is assume they've never been here before and they're going to get something that they're going to go, wow, I'm glad I came in. And if you work on those three things with every customer, that person's leaving in a good place, in a happy place, getting out, whether they eat in their car or outside now, or the day when they can sit out and they go, wow, I'm glad I made that choice. I'm glad I made that choice. You never want them to be unhappy they made that choice.
No.
Yeah, Gerard, I've been working here for more than 20 years, and I feel like I've been in your store multiple times a week in that whole time period, and I've never had a bad sandwich at JeJoJo.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Brian. I appreciate that, Brian. Your check will be in the mail.
Thank you. Yeah.
But I appreciate that. And that's like you said, going back to the loyalty and everything else. One of the things that we always strive about is the girls will say, I see that person's. You start to recognize people, and then the funny part is, ironically, when somebody's not there, you're like, wow, have you seen so and so? Have you seen so?
Yeah.
My girls have actually come to worry about some of this, even like some
of course, yeah.
They're like, oh my God, so-and-so hasn't been in 3 days,
yeah.
blah, 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 and stuff like that. And then, of course, like you said, going back to that pandemic, one thing we also started doing during this pandemic is we had never done home delivery. And we had never done it because I felt it was a safety issue. I never wanted to send somebody to somebody's house with cash in the hand,
Absolutely.
not knowing what's going on. So, we have the Uber, the DoorDash for all that kind of stuff and everything else. But I had said, listen, we have a bunch of older regular customers who I know can't be coming out and shouldn't be coming out. And we contacted them and we put the word out and everything else. And we have, started a regular, people will call for their food, their lunch, their cold cuts. You know what I mean? If they don't want to leave the house, they'll buy a bunch of cold cuts with a bag of rolls and stuff like that, or a dozen bagels, so they can stay in for a few days. And then we've made an effort to check on those people and get to those houses and make sure those people have something to the point where they can be comfortable coming back out again.
That's amazing.
It takes caring about we care about the community. We care about you guys. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's how it is. You gotta. There's no reason not to. At the point where you're not going to be a part of what's going on around you, check out, leave. Just there's countries that want to play that game, not here.
Yeah,
this is what we do.
Yeah, I gotta say, Gerard, besides those, I loved those three things that you said. Assume that they're having a bad day. Assume that they got in a fight with their significant. Oh, they're running late for work, and
they're
assume
in a rush.
that this is their first time. I mean, I love those words of wisdom. And then what you just said, to hear that from a business owner is like you can tell how dedicated you are to serving this community, and to serving everybody that comes through your door. So that is I love that. I love hearing that. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. And I'm sure it's a mantra that I've learned over the years that somebody else said to me. It's nothing I said here and created anything else, but it's kind of like goes back to, I don't even know who said it many years ago, the whole thing about you can't do everything, but you have to do something. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you got to look at it. You got to look at it. You know what I mean? Just and the biggest thing is to always, if something happens, if there is a situation, is you take a second, you step back, you figure out the situation, and you figure out what you can do to get through the situation. Because otherwise, you're just never going to go nowhere. You're never going to get anything accomplished. And then the more people you bring into that, the more successful you'll be. So,
absolutely.
I think telling us that and your philosophy on the business, that just shows why you guys have become an institution in Centereach all these years, and you have such a loyal customer base. Thank you again, Gerard, for being here.
Yeah.
This has been
guys. Thank you for having me. Thank you. This has been fun.
This has been a great interview.
I'll be in tomorrow for my bacon, egg, and cheese.
Next time we'll do this at the same table, hopefully around the round table with a party bagel in the middle. Okay.
Woo, yeah.
All right.
Can't
All right,
wait.
guys. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you so much, Gerard. It was
Good
a
day,
pleasure.
guys. All right.
Thank you,
Good
man.
luck.
All right.
Be well. Be
Take
well.
care.
Be safe.
You
All
too.
right.
You
Be
too.
well.
All right. All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Take care.